Call to order and certification of a quorum for the regular meeting of the City of Aransas Pass City Council, May 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Let's all rise for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance.
Lord, we pray for this council meeting tonight. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Aransas Pass, and we pray that our actions reflect your will. May we be the source of hope and stability for our community, working together to build a better future. We offer this prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Okay.
Council, if it's okay, if we could move item number 4, special consideration items, to right before action items, so we can go to announcements.
Okay. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. The first announcement, it's regards to some swim lessons, and I believe Ms. Paxson is here to speak on that grant that we received from Phillips 66.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I bring some great news this evening in our announcement section. So our Aransas Pass Aquatic Center was identified by Route 66 for their swim safety program as the recipient for $15,000 grant. This, at minimum, allows us to offer free swim lessons to the entire Aransas Pass ISD second grade group, hopefully the third grade, and it could potentially, we're still working on the numbers, expand to even further than that. So we are the first of what they hope will be several communities. We are planning a large ribbon cutting type celebration to really commemorate this event on May 19th. Details will be sent out as soon as they are finalized, and everyone would be invited at that time, but we are very thankful and excited to receive this grant.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item is a tire event. It's our annual tire event that's scheduled for this Saturday, May the 10th. And it's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 533 West Cleveland. That's across from Dairy Queen. And then the last announcement is announcing our special council meeting. That's the meeting where we will canvass the election results. That will occur, the agenda says May 14th, but we're moving that to May 13th, and it'll be at 4:30.
Okay. Now we're going to go to citizen comments. And we have Mr. Hector Rios.
Hector Rios, 1044 South Commercial. I would just like to thank the outgoing council members. Personally, thank you so much for your service. To put the needs of others in front of you, your neighbors, your community is just outstanding, and you should be commended. Thank you very much for that. The second thing I would really want to thank you for is your time. It's irreplaceable. We can replace all of our monetary goods, we can buy new things, but your time can never, ever, ever be replaced. And that I greatly appreciate you very, very much for. Thank you so much. God bless. I love each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
Okay, now we're going to go to the consent agenda, which is consider approving the April 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes for April 23rd, 2025.
We're only going to be approving at this time the minutes for April 23rd.
Okay.
So that's 7B only.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the April 23rd, 2025 special meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're going to go to the special consideration items.
So back on April 24th, the council discussed some projects using the accrued interest from the 2024 certificates of obligation. And at that time, the consensus was to move forward with the engine truck for $960,000, a brush truck for $265,000, and bunker gear in the amount of $204,000. After that meeting, we went back and we reviewed the inventory list for the bunker gear and the lifespan remaining in the bunker gear, and we learned that not all of the bunker gear was expired. So after we did that review, we looked at the list and what our needs were. So we are now recommending 7 sets of the structural gear and 24 sets of the wildland gear. And that totals to $57,036.10. If you recall, we had previously allocated $204,000 for bunker gear. So with the remaining funds, we're recommending that we pay Wilson in the amount of $110,000 and replace some fire hydrants. We need to replace 4 fire hydrants. That's $11,104. So doing the fire truck, the brush truck, the bunker gear, the fire hydrants, and Wilson, the total for these items totals to just, 1.4 million, just over 1.4 million. And we have accrued additional interest for the month of April. The total interest that we've accrued is $908,981.81. So the additional amount of funds that we would have to draw from the bond to cover this is $494,000. So if the council concurs with these projects, the next item, 4B, is approval of the budget amendment for these projects.
Yeah, but here pretty soon, we're gonna get more accrued interest here in the next few months.
Yes,
To
sir.
be able to make up some of that money.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Any other discussion?
I'm good with this, but was just going to ask, since this is a pretty good expenditure, if we could table this until the new council is sworn in. Okay.
There's
I'll make
not
a motion that we table this until the next council is sworn in, the new council, so that we can look at this.
Second.
We've already looked at
All
it.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No?
No.
Joe?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2025 budget.
Joe? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, now we're gonna go to the action items.
It's item 8A, and that is consideration of approving an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Plating and Services, Article 1, Section 24-27, Development Services Fees, by removing the base fee for variances and conditional use permits and providing for a flat fee of $200 each.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is an item that we brought through you through the last workshop that we did, and you all decided that we should not have the base fees added to the variance and to the conditional use permit. And so this is bringing this back to where it would be just a flat 200 for the variance and a flat 200 for the conditional use permit.
No further questions? I make a motion to approve ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Plating and Services, Article 1 in general, Section 24 through 27, Development Service Fees, by removing the base fees for variances and conditional use permits, providing for a flat fee of $200 each.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Can,
Okay, the next item is, it's consideration of approving an ordinance reinstating manufactured home district rezoning that was approved on April 24, 2020 for Thomas Furlow, and granting a time extension for a recreational vehicle park being 12,083 acres at the southwest corner of North Commercial and West Guile Avenue.
I think it's 12.83
12 point,
acres.
yes, I'm sorry,
Okay,
12,
RV
yes.
park.
12,000 acres.
Yes, sorry.
Do you have a
Wow.
map of that?
I do not, no. It's located off of North Commercial on your way out of town, right before the curb, on your left-hand side. And they actually came before the council on September 24th, 2020 for an initial rezoning. They are to rezone from an R7B single family to an MH manufactured park zone, which was approved by the council. There are some conditions that were approved with this, and it said to construction would have to be 12 months from the approval date, and they would need to replat the property and not use it for anything else, and the property would be non-transferable within the 12 months of approval. So that started to come near the end, and they came back to the city for an extension on November 21st, 2021. And so they asked for an extension of the rezoning for another 8 months. And the conditions on that one was that they needed to have a progress report for city council after 6 months, and that the property again would not be used for any other reason as requested, and the ownership being also non-transferable within the 12 months of approval of that request. Now, within that time period, the property was replatted, but there was no movement going forward from there. And so then it was realized that the property was in the environmentally sensitive area, and so then they went forward with the environmentally sensitive area board, and then they got approved to continue with construction on May 2nd, 2022 through the ESA board. And so they had their own conditions that the construction could begin no later than Friday, July 1st of 2022, and they need to comply with all state, federal, and local regulations, that any street lights or fire hydrants need to be complied with the fire department, and any future buildings not approved under the permit had to go back to the ESA board for approval. The property could not be used for anything other than the RV park, and the ownership also could not be transferable. So about 6 months ago, the owners reached out to us and said that they were ready to start again. But when I did the research and saw these ordinances, it was past the timelines that we had required for them to build. And so we ended up meeting with the city, and we came to the conclusion that the best bet would be for them to come back and give you guys an update to see if you would want to reinstate that rezoning for the MH park so they can continue with the RV park. And then just recently today, they did give me some information on prior people that were here at the city, where they have one email from OSE, the past planning director, saying that they have met all the requirements in full compliance with the city, and that the project was ready to proceed. And that was in July 28 of 2022. And then another one where it says, his assistant, Laura, says, we will consider the permits being pulled as part of start of construction. Unfortunately, though, that permit has also expired, so that hasn't been continued either. But we're asking for you to look at everything that was submitted to see if it's something that you want to consider reinstating for this property. And the owners are here to speak on their behalf as well.
I guess an ordinance, Brenda, because I can't remember, it's been a while since I looked at it, isn't there a maximum acreage for an RV park in town? Because I want to say it's around 10 acres, but
It is 10.
There is 10, but it's a minimum with the variant, not the variance, but with the ordinance that we had already passed, it allowed it at that time.
that's where I kind of got confused out on it.
Mm-hmm.
Did we at some time, don't we have an ordinance now that says that we didn't, no RV parks allowed at the entrances?
Right.
So that one
Yeah.
is in effect?
And it was supposed to be
That-
kept as business,
Yeah.
general business.
Yes.
That's right.
When did we pass that one?
At least 2 years ago.
Yeah, I
Were you
want to say
on
about
there?
2 years
Oh,
ago.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, I
Toward
remember
the
that.
end of Vicky's term.
Okay,
Yeah, we went through full discussion on that. So.
all right.
How many mobile
Yeah.
homes was this supposed to be?
I don't quite remember. Can you answer that?
141 is the approved one.
141.
That's the plan that was built first.
What was the reason for not starting the construction to begin with?
Would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Tom Furlow. It's good to be back. Brent Conlon and I are working on this project. So when we we went through a lot, and we redesigned plans, and we came down here several times, and then it was approved to change the zoning to allow for this project. It's a very nice, very expensive project. We were given conditions that they wanted us to start within a certain period of time, wanted us to, not transfer the property as a flip or something like that, that this is actually going to happen as it was approved. And we worked through a lot of that with the council. And then we were told, in terms of meeting the deadline that was in the ordinance, in terms of this definition of when does the construction process start, we were told in writing twice that pulling this permit, which was a very expensive permit, would satisfy that condition. We did that, and then we went on to get our text dot permit as we needed for the right-of-ways and a lot of other things that go into this. And then a lot happened economically, and the expense of building it and the economics changed, so we had to sort of revamp how we're going to go about financing this and some other things. So we took a breath to try to sort that out, and then recently we got ready to come back and, pick up the ball and start getting going on this. And we were told that, we knew that the building permit had expired. We offered to re-up it, but we were told, don't do that until everything's ready to go. And Brent had those conversations. So we didn't. We're ready to do that again. We're glad to pay for a new permit and go through that process again if we need to. We need to make sure everything's still up to code and if anything has changed. So we didn't re-up the permit because we were advised that it was premature because we weren't ready to start at that time. So we bought the permit, we've cleared ESA, we've got the text dot permit, we've done all these other things, and we were just waiting economically to be able to get this going, and I think we're close to being able to do that. So what we have is sort of a disagreement, for lack of a better term, that we feel like we were told we did comply with the deadlines. The city is concerned that we didn't, so we're here, but Brenda's made a really good suggestion that let's do this ordinance, cleans all this up, and say, okay, whatever dispute of whether we did or whether we didn't goes away. We have a hard deadline to start construction, pull the permits, and then we can go about raising the capital that we need to start this very expensive project. So that's why we're here. We thought we were in compliance until we went to pull the trigger. Turns out that there was a disagreement, and personnel has changed, but we went through the documentation, and we had asked for this assurance because at that stage, back in 2022, we're going into the marketplace to try to get the money, the $5 to $6 million it's going to take to build this thing. And we needed to make sure that we were okay. And so we got these assurances, and we went to start doing that. And then, like I said, a lot of things did happen in terms of the cost of construction. So we're back to that point. And now we're trying to clarify where we stand. And, we feel like we did comply, so we did have these entitlements. But if there's a 5-year limitation, we're fine with that. And we've got to pay for another building permit, we're fine with that because we need to be sure that we're current. So, we're asking, and we're in agreement that the ordinance is a good way to clean all of this up and make sure that we have a hard deadline and we know exactly what we're up against, because we thought we had already complied based on these letters and emails, and some other letters and emails. But, that's where we are. I was involved in procuring the land. Brent is with Espada Realty. He's a real estate developer, and we're partnering on this project. And I'm glad to answer any questions that you have. He can answer any questions that I cannot. And if neither of us can, we'll get the answers for you. But, we feel like we did what we were asked to do, and we feel like the ordinance is a good way to clean this up.
So as far as the style of the RV park, can you explain? The most high-end RV park I've seen is Gulf Waters in Port Aransas. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I'm familiar with Gulf Waters.
Yeah.
I would say that this is of a higher quality than Gulf Waters, and it's going to have, and I'm trying to recall the diagram of exactly how it was, because we had all the foam boards in there a few years ago.
Yeah, it's
but
been a while.
We did go back and forth a lot about green space and buffers with the neighborhoods. A lot of the local people were here. We talked to them personally and made sure that we were collaborating with them. I think we even agreed to abandon a right-of-way that, because we replatted, was no longer needed, so one of the neighbors didn't have to worry about a right-of-way. We really designed it well. And I think it was important to the council at that time that there was a fence and green space between it and 35. And that is there, but it's a particularly higher end design for sure. And I think that when we go back to re-up the permit, you know, as far as the landscaping ordinances and the requirements, that's one of the reasons that we're perfectly willing to do that, is to make sure that we're still in compliance if those items have changed or increased or what have you. But we consider it to be a pretty high-end project.
I think I missed something here. This ordinance said, or the agreement was to have this, was that you were gonna keep it and not flip it. Y'all were gonna own it. Now he's a real estate developer. That means you're gonna sell it?
Well,
You're gonna build it and sell it?
there was a period of time where I think the council didn't want us to just flip it overnight. They wanted to make sure that this project was the project that was going to be done. Because we came in with all these plans and all these, not concessions, but just agreements that everybody wanted it a certain way. And I think the concern was, well, don't get this agreement, get the zoning, and then you disappear. Obviously, I haven't disappeared. We're still here. But I'm not capable. I'm not a real estate developer. I own the land. I've lived, around here in Port Aransas my whole life. I'm local, but I don't do real estate development. And I'm not putting up the $7 million. So obviously, there are other partners that have to come in and do that. And we talked about that at council as well, and that's probably in the minutes, that we're not, I wasn't doing this to get the zoning and flip it at that time. So what we're doing now is we have this plan, trying to make sure we still have the zoning, and we're trying to go forward with the plans that were approved, and all that's in the permitting file, which is extensive, I'm sure.
Since that time, didn't we have an ordinance that said no mobile home parks?
We did. Right.
We have one in place now.
Yes.
What does that do with this, Brenda?
Well, considering they've already put in their permit prior, it can be grandfathered in if you all would like, because it has been presented.
But it
has been
expired and hasn't
It
been
expired.
renewed yet.
And can you explain that 5-year limitation?
Sure.
So we had asked the owner and the developer to tell us about what is the extent of the time limit that they need to be able to make sure that their project works for them. And so in the sample ordinance that was given to you in the report, it left a blank. He wasn't too sure at first at how much. They think they just need 5 years to be able to get all their finances together and start building within those 5 years, max. And so there's also a condition on there that says if they do need to sell in a matter to be able to get more partners to be able to get this project going, that they can within those 5 years. But past those 5 years, if they need to sell or anything, then everything goes back to normal. They lose the MH for the RV park, and it goes back to the original zoning of having commercial along Commercial Avenue and then single family in the rear.
So has this gone past that?
No, that's why we're here in front of you.
What is the date? September 25 now? You had so many dates on there a minute ago you were talking about.
Sorry, so if you approve that today, it would be 5 years from today.
5 years from today.
Mhm.
And again, I think the benefit of the ordinance is it dispenses with this discussion about did we comply when we pulled and paid for the permit and passed and got it all ready to go. And we got the letter from OSI that says every deadline, all deadlines, all conditions have been met relative to this zoning and this permit. So that's what we were told. So that was not on our list of things to be concerned about. It was, okay, now how do we orchestrate this properly? How do we, in this market, how do we, make this happen? And that's what we've been setting out to do. And economically, things did get a lot more challenging in terms of the cost of money and cost of construction and things like that. So the numbers we were using back when we came here the first time have changed dramatically, and we're reacting to that, and we're trying to get that sorted.
I'm sure they have.
It's a challenge for sure.
So when we did the original rezoning in September of 2020, correct?
2020?
That was approved for how long?
1 year.
Okay.
to commence construction within a year,
Okay.
quote unquote, and then we received an 8-month extension, and then we commenced construction by paying for that permit and getting everything, ESA and all of that approved, and then we were told, you're good. You commenced construction when you got all your architect, all your, everything approved, and you paid for your permit.
But
So
that,
that's-
and that was up until 2021, correct?
No, that was, we
No,
were
no,
done.
She's
Oh.
correct. The extension would have expired, the 8-month extension would have expired July 1st of 2022. Is that the second ordinance? Is that correct? July 1st of 2022. We were issued a building permit on July 28th of 2022, so some 4 weeks later. And the letter from OSE was also dated July 28th of 2022.
But that one's expired now, too.
The building permit, correct,
Okay.
yes.
But
So
didn't
y'all
we
are
have to
here,
go- oh,
y'all
sorry.
are here to extend that, get it
Not here
going?
to extend the building permit, that's a separate application and review process that we absolutely would agree and concede to contend with again, and including paying the building permit fee, excuse me, fees again. I'm Brent Conlon, I'm with the Spot of Real Estate in San Antonio. I've been working with Tom on this project since fourth quarter of 2018. It might be the longest project I've ever had in my entire career.
It is.
Yeah. So we've talked a little about the timing of this. In 2020, we finally received council's review and approval of not only the zoning.
That's my walkout song.
Yeah. Mic drop. It's not the best in with that. So in 2020, the zoning obviously was the kind of the focus of those conversations, but in order to get the zoning, there were a lot of other conditional requirements in the design and planning of what we were proposing to build. Many of the same concerns you all are voicing today were extraordinarily vocal at that time too. There was a council member who lived right behind the project, the proposed project, and he was extraordinarily sensitive to green space, noise, quality of construction, how the property was going to be used. Am I misstating that?
No.
I think he sat right there, if I remember correctly.
Sure, try to remember.
And so we hired a really well-known architect, DTJ out of Austin, who's done quite a bit of stuff at Palmilla and other projects over in Port Aransas, but they do a lot of RV specialty work. And what they designed, I wish I had a copy of one of those boards here. It looks like a little mini seaside, but in an RV park. I mean, the fencing and the sense of arrival and the gates and the office building as you pull in for check-in, it's all done in these beautiful coastal pastels, and the material selections are all specified. It was an extremely ornate and detailed presentation to get everybody comfortable with the quality of what we're proposing to build. At no time in this extended process have we ever proposed modifying the site plan, modifying the building construction, or the design of the project. Painfully so, quite frankly, what we're proposing to build is a magnitude or two nicer or more aesthetically pleasing than any other product here or on the island, quite frankly. So it's a really beautiful project. Take my word for it, but we can show you
No,
in past
I'd
pictures.
like to see that.
Okay, it's really nice, and they should be in part of the permitting files, but we're happy to send through Brenda anything that we have in our files for your review.
So you're going to have some type of property manager or HOA within this?
So when we originally planned this project, our original budgets, we've had three major constraints come up since the time of this project being permitted for building, issuing the building permits. The first was residual cost elevation post-COVID. Materials cost, concrete in particular, landscape is extraordinarily expensive, and we have been patiently waiting through 22 and 23, still today, for some relief in those construction pricing. And we've seen about 10 to 12% down from what it was in August of 22. We did a pricing exercise last September, and we saw about a 12% decrease in the project cost. Unfortunately, from the time in 2020 when we originally designed it and did our initial pricing exercises, we saw the price jump 32%. So we're now down to about 20% greater cost than it was when we originally designed the project in 2020. I saw a lot of you kind of shaking your heads about the request for 5 years. We're not expecting this to take 5 years, but let me tell you a little bit about the process we went through between 2022 and where we are today to give some color to why the request for an extended period of time. First of all, if we're going to go back through building permitting, that's several weeks minimum. After we got our building permit in July of '23, we were still awaiting a TxDOT permit, which we did not receive until March of 2023. So when our building permits were expiring, at least the fire marshal and the other departmental review components of that in January of '23, we were still waiting on our TxDOT permit. Building official Joseph Garcia is still in place today. As he will attest, I was flooding him with emails and phone calls about renewing that building permit, trying to keep the project intact through the first half of 2023. And Mr. Garcia's suggestion was, don't apply for renewing your building permit. We'll renew it for you at a nominal or no fee, but don't do it until you're actually ready to start construction. Get your TxDOT permits and other third-party pieces in place. Get your financing in place with your lender, raise your equity capital, and get your project actually ready to go before you come back and ask for a building permit. Well, in that time, we all know what's happened with interest rates, so we've had this elevated construction cost, now we have interest rates, and Mr. Dominguez, to your question, operationally and managerially speaking, when we originally planned this project, it was going to be a park run where you have a couple of people who are essentially staying rent-free with a small bonus compensation that are paid to be on-site managers. And then we have a property management company in San Antonio that would handle all of the billing and accounts receivable and accounts payable, so the business part of it remotely. What we have discovered in the industry over the last few years is that doing that park model no longer really works. It's not very efficient. Operating costs, so all of the fees that come after you receive the rental revenue, what's paid out to operate the park, we've seen those jump from roughly 36% of revenue to over 50% of revenue, which has been the third stake that's really prohibited us from taking further action with more immediacy the last couple of years. So we are now looking for an operating partner to actually come and get involved in the project with us, to have ownership stake in it alongside of us, not in lieu of us, to help mitigate that operating cost exposure that's in the marketplace prevalent. Yes, sir.
To kind of slow down a bit,
Yeah, I'm
who's going
rattling.
to own this?
We will own it. It is an entity, so we conveyed the land into a land partnership. We brought in some additional equity. Tom still has
Okay.
ownership in
Do
it.
you have funding now to start building, or are you still looking for funding?
That is part of the request. We still need to find capital, both equity and debt, to fulfill the capital stack to build this project.
Okay, if we act on this today, then that's another 5 years. And in 5 years, if you don't have it done, then we're going all through this again, right?
No, sir. What we're conceding to today is that we've got as a resolution to our belief that we secured the entitlements in perpetuity already versus the city's interpretation of the ordinance, sans Osei's letter that we've provided today, interpretation that we hadn't. So we have been operating the last couple of years as though we had done everything that we had to do in order to secure that entitlement in perpetuity. What we see today as being the opportunity for all of us is to dispense with the disagreement, the misinterpretation, the right, wrong, or indifferent, whether we had the entitlements or we didn't. A proposal's on the table that we agree in 5 years we're going away and the zoning reverts to its general business and residential zoning prior, if we have not started construction by that point in time. And again, we think that's
5 years, do or die.
Yeah, we think that is an outside, really outside date. We are hoping, because we've got a substantial amount of capital tied up in this project already, that is not earning anything. So we are anxious, financially speaking, driven to find a way to get this done.
What is this going to do to our ordinance that we have in place already, Brenda?
They would have to, when they resubmit for their building permit, they would have to match the items in that ordinance. So whatever design that they have now, when they resubmit for the building permit, they would have to go through our engineers and make sure to match that RV park ordinance that we have now.
Brenda, my question to you now is, will we have to go back through the process of notifying the surrounding property owners and getting their consent again, or is that all
No,
done?
that was done originally in 2022.
So we don't have to go through that process again?
Correct.
I'm just leery on the 5 years because, you know,
Yeah.
you're saying you don't have the financing for it. I mean, it's like I could say I'm gonna go build Walmart tomorrow, but I only got $50 in my pocket. That's my only catch I have right now.
Yeah. What I might add to help ease that reservation is, I don't know if this is against my nature to talk dollars and cents in a public forum, but we are well over $1 million in capital invested in this project already. We have no intention of walking away from that. I personally can't afford to walk away from it. So there's a commitment to building this, and although it may seem like a number of years has passed and we haven't done anything, there has been a tremendous amount of work continuing to transact behind the scenes, including seeking our permits from TxDOT, which was an elongated process and included an off-site drainage improvement, which we've committed to doing, in order to get their approval for the right-of-way permit, and that didn't come until March of '23. We went through another pricing exercise with our contractor and all the subs and bid the project out again in September of last year, '24. And it, like I said earlier, noticed about a 12% decrease in the elevated costs that we had been looking at prior. So we're getting closer. We've been continuing to monitor the market and do quarterly occupancy studies and rental rate studies of the RV parks in the area, and are seeing some uptick in rents, which obviously that increase in revenue helps offset some of that cost in order to be able to get the yield proposition to work for equity and debt. So we're making progress. It is a slow game, and higher interest rates and, you know, potentially increased cost in materials for hopefully just a short period of time due to tariffs are all risks that we're dealing with, but these are unknowns beyond our control. We're optimists. I, in particular, as a developer, I always have to look at the bright side of things, and, you know, I'm a believer that the economy is going to turn around and we're going to see better things sooner than later. I think a lot of the volatility and uncertainty that we're experiencing now is just the pain we got to go through to get there. You know,
So
not to get ideological at the pulpit, but
My next question would
Sure.
be, so what opportunity do you see coming here and asking for this 5-year extension, so to speak, at this time, rather than just, I mean, you own the land, rather than just waiting till you have your financing, have everything together, and then come to the city and say, we're ready to go?
well, it's
We
very
have it already.
It's very difficult, as Tom alluded earlier, when we requested and received that letter from OSE. That letter provided us the security to go to our debt and equity market participants, banks and equity investors, and say, we have secured the entitlements. This is a commitment. You can commit your capital to this project because the entitlements are there. We cannot go to the market, nor would any developer, and try and raise capital and secure debt for a project that doesn't have the entitlements in place. It just doesn't happen. So that's why we got that letter. We felt very certain that we had a tangible commitment from the city of Aransas Pass that said we had met the contingencies that were required to secure that zoning in perpetuity, that this was no longer something that was in jeopardy
But that's
due
not
to
a-
any performance.
That's not a permanent deal. That was for 5 years.
No, sir, that was not.
It was permanent.
It was permanent.
As long as we started construction within the timeframe.
What have you started?
We were told by the city
The paperwork is,
that you pay the $17K.
And
you
pull
get
your
all-
bill- you
And
pull
get
it-
all the, and there was a lot that went into that permit. $100 grand
I'm
in
like
design,
Terry.
all of this, and they said, you do that and you're good to go, and then we said.
I'm like her, why don't you come to us when you've got the financing and everything ready to
Because
go?
they
You
won't
can't-
give us the financing
You can't get
without
the
the zoning.
financing without the entitlements
It
secured.
has to be a viable.
Which is why we were adamant about securing them before. Not to be brash, but that's just the reality of the marketplace.
And we thought that was off of our list of things to worry about, and we were writing the numbers and trying to recalculate and wait for an opportunity that we could actually get this going. And that just started to present itself, and then we went to get out of the blocks. It turns out, well, no, commencing construction, we may have told you that's what it meant, but we're saying that's not what it means now. And what we're saying is, we do have a dispute, but this ordinance takes all that out of the picture, gives us 5 years to get all this done. If we don't, It goes back to being a field. When I started amassing this property 20 years ago, it was bad. This is turning into something very, very nice. But it has before I walked in here and asked for this, I'd been gathering this property up for 15 years. So I've had a vision for this for a long time, trying to make something good out there, and I think we can really do that. But we have to go through these steps or we're not gonna be able to get it off the ground. And it's unfortunate how it turned out, and that, we thought this meant something, and now it seems like the city feels like it means something else. And we're just trying to give an easy, clean resolution.
Where are you at with it?
So what I wanted to say was, with all the ordinances that they've done and the time limits on these ordinances and extensions and all of that, in our view, in the city's view, is that they're at a standstill. But, so it means that they don't have that MH ordinance. So that's why, in order to continue the project and have those tangibles in their pockets to be able to go to banks and ask for more money, that needs to be reinstated now. So like that, they can have that information and say, we have still the approval, we're back on a 5-year time limit, and if we don't get that done within the 5 years, we lose it all. We lose the zoning again, and we lose everything. So they would have to go back to regular zoning, the commercial and single family in the back, and the project goes away.
Does it have to be 5 years?
That is the request. It's up to the council to decide. And I don't know if you've noticed on the ordinance that was presented to you, it requires the time period, and then there's also conditions. So some of the conditions would require you all to decide the start of construction, actually breaking ground, and the rezoning shall stand within the approved time extension of whatever time you decide, if it's 5 years or more or less. And then within that time approval, they can sell to bring in more partners, but after the 5 years, if they haven't done anything, then all that ends. So they can sell to finish the project for something else to be done. But they would have to start the whole process over for whoever comes in for another project.
And if the council wants to add an additional condition, you could add that we receive updates either on a 6-month period or annually on the project.
Right, yeah, because we've started this within 5 years and it's halfway completed or barely completed. Where do we stand with that?
Once it starts construction within whatever time period you give it, then there's really just building permits, time limits that they would go by.
So once you actually started building this out, there's a timeline. They can't wait 5 minutes, 5 years.
Correct. So let's say they start, and usually permits are 6 months. They can be extended
Right.
up to a year.
Okay.
And even then, our building department works with people. If they show that they've been continuing doing inspections and different items, they'll keep extending it.
Yeah, I don't know about 5 years, because we could sit on this 5 years and then,
That's a 10-year project.
that
It
just-
started in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden the town can
10-year
start
project.
developing, and if you got that land sitting there vacant and nothing gets built on it, then we might miss out on another opportunity.
Well, feel free to send us anybody who's interested in doing something different. If the city would rather do that and is willing to pay us the money for it, we're happy to engage in the conversation, particularly if we haven't started building, but that is not our intent.
If we give you this, deal right now, is that gonna effectively get you the funding you need from the banks, or is this still gonna be wait until they decide to do it, or you find some partners to do it?
It gives us a critical component to be able to go have the conversations with the banks and the equity. I think the banks right now are coming around to lending into a new construction development market. They're still a little skittish. I think because this project is not vertically construction intensive, it's just mostly horizontal improvements, streets, curbs, utility extensions, parking pads and the like.
So there's not any glimmer of hope that you have financing yet?
Well, I think we've had several banks that we've talked with in the past that are likely to come around if we're able to pull the returns together. So what it really boils down to, sir, is can we lease up the spaces at a revenue stream that justify the capital investment and get the yield out of it to pay the debt and pay equity investors the return they're looking for. That really is what the crux of the issue is. It's not availability of money, it's availability of money at a proposition where we can get them a return.
Can we make the numbers work?
Yeah.
You know, under these new construction costs, rents have gone up some, but construction costs have
Yeah.
gone up more. We've got to show the bank that this is a viable project.
As
And,
construction costs have been here, they're inching downward slowly prior to current economic conditions. That's been the trend. Interest rates are starting to fall and hopefully will continue to, all of which pushes down the yield that revenue has to generate, correct? And we've seen rental revenue start to bump up, so as they get closer to equilibrium, the higher likelihood this thing financially will make sense. We're trending in the right direction, for sure.
So to get financial approval for funding from a bank, are you saying that they're more than likely not to give you funding if you don't have permits and zoning and these things in place already?
If
That's
we don't have
correct.
zoning, we can't even have the conversation.
Yeah, it is not a feasible project if the land that it's proposed to go on is not entitled
So
for the product.
So I guess that's a commercial loan requirement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what got us here in the first place. We started to come out of the blocks and we're talking to some equity investors, and turns out that we've got a glitch in the zoning, so we're done at that point. That's why we're standing here with you.
Okay.
Because we tried, that was a step we were trying to take when we realized that this disagreement existed. That's what precipitated this whole.
Because for a residential, you wouldn't need any of
Right,
that.
but it's all commercial.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Residential is typically
That
trying
was
to-
my thought. It's like, why on earth would the financial
typically a residential-
institution require that?
Typically, a residential loan would either be for a home that is built or that a builder is committing to build, but the land that it's being built on is probably already at least a paper lot
Yeah.
for a residential home. This is the equivalent of that.
Brenda, the residents around Dial, have they been notified?
Not this time around, no.
Are they gonna be notified? I mean, it's coming up again, so.
It's not required through
It's
city
not?
council, no.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it was mentioned earlier that some of them were kind of sensitive on this topic.
Right.
Well, we had, I think, 3 hearings on this, maybe more, and a
Right.
lot of discussions directly with neighbors. I think Gordon was one of the guys that lived over there. I'm trying to remember his name, good guy. We talked about it. In fact, he had a question about one of the right-of-ways, because I've amassed this property, like I said, over 15 years. I said, we're gonna let that right-of-way go. That's gonna be your property now, and we're gonna build this green space. Childhood friend of mine lives next to it. Talked to him, he was here. We changed our plan after that to make sure that we had a buffer. A lot of things did happen, and they were notified.
Yeah, we
This
brought
is more
our-
of a reactivation of that, or just a cleaning up this glitch, and what happened in 2022.
We actually brought our architect and engineers in from Austin and San Antonio respectively and had a meet with community members who were interested in participating. And it was their input that led to the final design.
Right, right.
I
The
think if
neighbors.
not to interrupt, sorry, I think if we look at lessening the time amount, it might be we might be able to stomach that a little
Okay.
better. That would get your wheels moving faster.
Well, it's,
Well,
trust me,
then-
I don't know that you can motivate us much more than we are. We've got a lot of capital tied up in this that's earning nothing.
When you're in turtle mode, how,
Yeah.
we need you to be motivated
No, I
in
understand.
rabbit mode.
What does the
understand.
council see as a reasonable timeframe?
Yeah.
What is the council's view of a reasonable time?
1 year.
Well, it's going to take a year to get all
Three.
of the other
2.5 to
textile
3
permit
years.
I'm gonna
reissues,
say
building
3
permits.
years.
What's that?
3 years.
3 years? So we're going from something in perpetuity to 3 years.
You've been doing it for, what, 5 now?
Yeah, but we're being told we have to start over with all of our building permits and everything. Will you reissue the building permits we've got without modification? I mean, if we don't have to go through the building permit review process again, and I can expedite less than 6 months a TxDOT permit again, but I mean, those two things alone are going to eat up the better part of a year just trying to get that together. and then obviously closing a loan, raising the equity, and getting ready to go. So, and then that doesn't account for any of the economic challenges that we have and are continuing to have, and which are just the reality of the world we live in. There's not a lot of
I understand,
development happening.
Understand economics and all of that, and I understand that this has been going on for 5 years, and you want another 5 years. I think this council right now is willing to give you 3 right now.
Can we confer?
Huh?
Can we have a second to confer?
Sure.
So,
Would you consider 1 year to get our permits and everything in place, and then 3 years to construct post? Assuming we get those permits in place in a year?
Because that year's wasted. We can't do anything.
This isn't Shark Tank.
No, I know. That's funny. I don't even have a red watch on.
If it is, I think Randy's Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I just got to spell it.
That was a good one.
Where's the red watch?
Why do we, can you give us,
Can anybody tell me when construction costs are coming down or interest rates are going to get better?
You talked to
No.
Or when your community is going to be willing to pay me more rent for
But
this
that's not the council's,
Yeah.
It's gonna increase nothing else.
3.5?
Yeah.
Can you go 3.5?
30 days.
we,
It's going to take a year to get the permits unless you'll give us our permits back.
I have no
We'll pay for
objection
the-
to
why will it
having
take, will it take a
milestones.
year to get permits, Brenda?
Not just building permits. It's TxDOT permits, which took 6 months last go round to get them.
Well, you need to step on their toes in.
Good luck. That's a tougher board than
That's
this one.
not our issue.
I would have to say and
That's
agree
not our
that
problem.
TxDOT permits do take 3 to 6 months, unfortunately, yes.
What about 3 years
Well-
after that 6 months?
Have you started that process with TxDOT at
We
least?
did it once.
We were issued a permit in
Yeah, you
March
did
of
it once.
23,
Okay.
which was after our building permit expired, which is why I was having conversations 3 months prior with Mr. Garcia, trying to get the building permits in a position where we could line this thing up in 2023 to get under construction.
So when did the TxDOT permit expire?
It expired in, I want to say November of 23.
So it was only a 6-month deal too?
Correct.
That should prompt y'all to work faster.
I'm having a hard time.
So that's the thing, we're going to get these permits, get them all to line up timing-wise, and then we're probably going to have to extend the back-end ones to line up with the ones that we got first, which is why a year is really critical to
But I
getting
mean,
in a
if
position.
you think about it, if we fail, it's been a field forever. It's still a field.
It's still a field.
I mean, I got a couple of crack houses off of it, but other than that, I'm trying to make it into one piece of property, turn it into something nice. And if we fail, we got what we got, which is something that I paid very little taxes on. Well, we were because they thought it was commercial. So I'm just saying, we've been trying to do this. We're committed to do this. We put our money where our mouth is. It's been a very difficult process and a very long process, and we're battle-weathered for it, but we're willing to keep going forward to try to make something of it. If we don't make it, what's anybody lost?
I
It's
think
my-
we're
it's our
all willing
land,
to
it's
go to
just gonna
3
sit there.
years. If y'all can, I think we're all willing to go to 3 years.
3 years and then come back again.
3 years and we can come back and have this conversation again?
I would prefer.
Well, if
to
you
have
still
it
don't have
going.
anything done, you will
Okay,
be
I
having
mean,
this
okay.
conversation
We
again.
were offering 5 years and we're done, but we'll do 3 years and the ability to at least have this conversation again.
We would like to see something going in that time. If you don't have it going, and then it's not going, 2 years ain't gonna make any difference with anything. It's just gonna, prices are still gonna go up.
Okay, and I think this notion of status, like every 8 months or something, we're glad to come in here.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. We're not
We understand that.
shy about not
Okay.
sharing.
But if you guys could get something going and start building and say, hey, we're working on it right now, and show us that, then that's more palatable.
Okay.
I agree. What really constitutes getting it going is it's
Building.
so under construction. So at that point, we have all our permits and everything. We've got our financing. We've closed a construction loan. We've raised the equity. We're spending money, somebody else's money at that point.
I know you are.
So
But get it building, started building. I don't like it anyway because it's a mobile home park and we said we're not doing that anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some nice ones out there. But where do we draw the line at? We said we're not gonna do it, now we're gonna do it because y'all have been doing this since 2020.
This is where you
I
draw it right
understand. I
here.
understand your perspective. I
Yeah.
do. I'm sensitive to it.
Okay.
I think we have a citizen
Yeah.
wanting to
Oh.
make some comments.
Sorry, excuse me, sir. You stand there.
Excuse me for speaking up. I barely can talk. And but I've been here almost, July 4th, be 77 years. I was born and raised in this town. My dad would have been 105 years old. That intersection is very deadly. People will get killed in that intersection. I live on Hazlet. There's no place on the west. There's no place going on streets. It would be crowded to the people, and the only one that would gain anything is the people trying to get in there. That place is so low that it would rain out any project in that place of area. I know that place, the intersection, like I said, I lived on Hazlet Street at one time. My brother lived on the other one, and then we got the E&J record, and this place is not suitable for anything to be built in that area. There's no intersection. Coming from north, we would have all that traffic, no lights. People right now are not even obeying the speed limit in that area, and you can have all kind of.
Talking about that circle coming into town, that
Yes,
curve.
sir.
Yes, sir, you're right.
I know that area so well. I go every day toward that area because I go visit my wife at the cemetery, and I have trouble because people. I drive speed limit and people try to run me over. I said, better watch it. I'm a combat veteran. I said, don't mess with me. You know. I said, I obey my rules, and of course my son was a police officer, and
Well, sir, you brought up a very valid point because I can see that also.
I would vote against it. Anything be built in that intersection because it's very deadly, and you have to go actually live in that area to know what I'm talking about. Because I said I'm an honest man. Never been in jail. Never been cuffed. Never been. I had a speeding ticket in 1970 in up north, but I've been honest all my life. I said, but this here, my brother was a mayor here and the judge also in Aransas Pass, and we're all good citizens. And I said, I'm going to speak. I said, and I don't want to take too much time on people. And ma'am, Arnulfo Torres, like the corrido of Arnulfo Gonzalez, he was killed by a cop named Torres. So I know what I'm talking about. And so, okay. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Torres.
Okay, what's the favor of the council?
I would like to speak on those 2 points. When we do the engineering for this plan, we make sure that no water that already lands on that property is pushed over to anybody else. So they might require a retention pond to be able to retain that water. So we make sure that no other properties are
I'm going to
drained.
mirror what Mr. Torres said. I know that intersection and that curve, and he is correct.
Yes,
Try to
and that is
pull
why,
up this
that is one of the
through
reasons
there.
that TxDOT takes too long, because they do an assessment of the cars coming in, and TxDOT would not approve anything if it usually off a highway like that, they require about 500 feet or so of a deceleration lane before you turn. So that's one of the reasons why TxDOT takes so long to approve a permit, because they look at all the traffic in the area.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we table this because there's a lot more I'd like to look into before we pull the trigger. Well, my bad, I fell asleep.
I have a second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Nobody. Okay, now let's go to consideration of approving
Thank
the
you,
renewal
guys.
of a licensed
Thank you.
training provider agreement for 36 months and the American Red Cross to continue providing CPR and related training for the police department and fire department.
Mayor, council,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm asking for approval for our training coordinator to go into an agreement with American Red Cross. It's a 36-month lease, or I'm sorry, not lease, but I mean, I won't do all the talking and stuff, but it's a 36-month renewal, and it allows our department to be able to provide CPR training, which is required for our license.
Okay, I move to approve action item C.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we go to consideration or approve the renewal of an agreement with the Defense Logistic Agency Disposition Services, which allows the police department to participate in the Texas Department of Defense Property Transfer Program, formerly known as the 1033 program.
Mayor, Council, I asked that this one be tabled, and the reason for the tabling is, since the election happened, there's gonna be another mayor. This is the reason why it's on our agenda right now, was because I came in and we had to change it from the former chief, and if we do it now into this, I'm gonna have to turn around and do it, again next month with the new mayor coming in. So I asked for a table on this.
Okay.
Motion?
I move to table action item D.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, consideration of approving an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 25.7, Solid Waste, Article 2, Refuse Collection, Section 25.7-43, Disposal of Natural Debris and Bulk Items at City Citizens Collection Station, Transfer Station Fees.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know we met over this a couple times already. I think we met a couple weeks ago, but I do want to recap for the citizens. This is to update our ordinance. We do have a scale at the transfer station now. Before it was just per load, but now we're doing per weight. It'll be an automatic $5 base charge just to get in on the scale. It'll be 10 cents per pound for residents and 12 cents per pound out of residents. So you'll automatically fall in default of 12 cents per pound unless you just show proof that you live in City of Aransas, then you go down to 12 cents. So you don't have to have a license if you or a proof of residence. If you don't, it just means you're just going to pay the higher rate. I mean, don't get me wrong, you should have a license if you're driving, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you kind of confused me.
Yeah.
It's a base $5.
Yes, correct.
Plus 12 cents a pound.
Yes.
For residents.
If you have a residence, is 10 cents a pound.
10 cents. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Non-residents is 12.
Yes, correct.
Got you. Thank you.
And at this point, now we can offer to businesses, commercial contractors, because now, the more they bring, then we'll just basically scale them up and charge them in that case. We will not be accepting cash. It'll just be all electronic. Trying to think what else I'm missing. Well, if the scale does go down for maintenance, we're just going to revert back to the original ordinance. So we still have the original ordinance as a backup, because you know how it is. Eventually, this scale is going to need maintenance, and it'll be down and things of that sort.
And what days will it be open now, David?
We're recommending Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay. All day Saturday?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
What's the regular, the former ordinance? Was it just a show your license and it's free? If you're a resident?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance amending the transfer station fees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're going to go to consideration of approving to award the bid to Derrick Construction Company for RFP 2025-003 for the Lighthouse Lake Kayak Ramp Project for the construction of the kayak ramp at Lighthouse House Lakes for $120,909.
This is to make that kayak ramp into a concrete ramp. I know we spoke about the tide going up and down and boats going in and out and washing away that sand kayak ramp. We're always having to maintenance it. In this case, this has been engineered, so we need to go out for a contractor to bid on this. We had 3 bids. The lowest bid was $120,909. The Port of Corpus Christi is funding $72,000 of it. The other $50,000 is coming from interest accrued. Other than that, I know we spoke about it before, but this is actually to pull the trigger and actually award the contractor so we can get this installed.
I make a motion to consider approving award bid to Derrick Construction for the Lighthouse Lakes ramp project.
Can I ask one thing real quick?
Yep.
David, when you do that concrete out there in that sand and those boats washing that all up, is that concrete still going to stay there?
Yes, in theory, yes. It's
How
been
thick is it?
engineered to stay there.
Okay.
Like a boat ramp would.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the beams are pretty deep. It'll stay.
Cool.
I'm
Second.
sorry, Carrie. Go ahead.
Okay.
He second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're going to go to consideration of approving to negotiate with K. Freeze and Associates for the engineering services for RFQ 2025-002 Sherwood Forest Water and Wastewater Phase 3.
Mary, do you have the scoring sheet on there as well? The results? Okay. So we had 4 engineering firms submit their request for qualifications. We had K. Freeze, Adura, Lynn Engineering, and LJA. After the scoring, K. Freeze was the highest score. They have done work for us in the past. They've done our ARP projects and some other projects. So at this point, we're not awarding them. We're just asking for permission to begin negotiations. We'll sit down with them, go over the whole scope of work, make sure we get every detail in there. That way they can give us a contract price. At that point, we'll bring the contract price forward to the mayor and council so they can either approve or deny at that point. So this is not really committing anything. It's just allowing us to open the door to negotiate.
I make a motion to approve to negotiate with K. Freeze and Associates for the engineering services for the Sherwood Forest Water and Wastewater Phase 3 project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now let's go to consideration of awarding hotel occupancy tax funds for the year 2025 to organizations who submitted applications to the filing deadline of March 31st, 2025.
Yes. When the council considered those hot fund applications at the last meeting, Mr. Hector Rios was not able to attend. He is here today. He had submitted a total of 3. One was not eligible. I believe the event was going to be held in Church, Texas, so that one was not eligible. So the first one is, the name of the event is Aransas Pass Kayak Expo at Combron Harbor. The event date is June the 20th through the 22nd. He is requesting a total of $8,000 for the event, $6,500 for advertising, and then, but the budget breakdown that was submitted was for $4,000. And then, well, that's the first one.
What is the other project?
The
You said there's
second
2
one-
projects?
The second one is, let me see if I can go to that one. The second one is the Aransas Pass Migratory Species Festival, and that event is October 10th through the 12th, 2025. He is requesting $7,000 for that event.
Do you have any expenses to show already? Have you done these projects before?
No, these would be brand new events. Yes, so I've never really done them before. The only thing that we've actually done would be more of a kayak fishing tournament. But that's pretty much the extent of it.
I don't know that we can give out any hot funds without having some type of proof of, I've done this is what it cost me to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. I totally understand where you're coming from, but I'm writing off basically, this is what people come here to do. We are in the largest flyway in the entire North American continent. Over 2 billion birds pass over our territory, Aransas Pass, every single year. Twice a year, actually, for the fall migration and for the spring migration. Between us and the Rio Grande Valley, we're talking over $6 billion.
Correct. It's a great project.
Yeah, it's a
great
big
project. I think you need to get one behind you so you'll see what your expenses are. So that
Sure, I understand what you are saying.
Post project, come back and ask for reimbursements for those.
Sure.
So you can do your project, and then you have your concrete information of exactly what you spent on advertising and whatever else you're looking for funding for, and then come back to the city to get reimbursed for what you spent. I think that would be the better opportunity for you.
Well, is it that kind of same thing?
Get money without even doing it.
No, we can't give you money right now because you say you need $8,000.
I mean, if it's on a reimbursement, I can put up the money. I mean, I can put up the money. Absolutely. If I can get reimbursed, I can put up the money. Yeah. That's not too big of a deal, but I just need to make.
For your first project, that's what you need to do. No one has come in and asked for money, hot fund taxes, for an event that's never taken place because they don't have any concrete evidence on what it cost.
Well, that's what I'm here to go ahead and try to do. Try to accumulate and work with y'all to make something that actual people are actually coming here to do by the millions and spending millions of dollars. You know, every single city around us or surrounding cities are in their 20th, 30th, 40th annual birding festivals. How many have we had?
Oh, I get it. It's a
They're-
fabulous
they're
project.
they're gathering
The
millions.
city would not be responsible in just handing you a blank check or anyone
I don't want a
a
blank check. I don't want a blank check. Like I said,
You're asking
if we
for
can,
$8,000 and you have no clue what your cost is actually going to be.
no. So I thought this was going to be on a reimbursement type system.
That's what I
Well,
was
when
gonna.
you bring your receipts and your proof of
But it needs to be.
purchase,
I need to get an approval that I'm going to be reimbursed first.
I think
well,
that's,
that's what everyone else has done.
yeah, I think what this is
That's a
basically,
why.
telling if I'm wrong, is we're just allocating this to sit there, so when he does his project, he comes back with the receipts,
Sure.
and then he'll get reimbursed at that time.
I'm not asking for a blank check. There's no
Yeah.
way. I've never asked for anything in my life. It's such a thing like that. Never. You know,
Okay.
I've been here for 23
But
years. I'm a straight up
you're-
business person. I've put a lot of time
Wrong
into.
term. Maybe I shouldn't have said blank check, but you're asking us to hand you money with no, we have no idea how much your expenses are actually going to be. So if we give you $8,000 now,
So let me
your
just say.
expenses are $1,500.
Yeah, let me
I mean,
just
we
say.
just can't do that. That's not responsible on the city's part.
That's very good that that's not responsible on the city's behalf, but I would never do that.
So
That's
do
not
your
my character
project.
to come ask for $8,000 and to
So
spend
let me-
$1,500 of it and then $6,500 into my pocket. You're talking to the wrong. I'm not that
That's
person.
not what I said at all, Hector. No,
so
that's
let
It's
what
just
I
what you
said. That's not
said.
what I
That's
referred
exactly
to.
what you said, Councilwoman
Mary-
Scruggs.
Mary,
So,
go
yeah,
ahead.
let me just say, since these two projects that he's presenting, since they're the first-time projects, he's never had this project before. So what is the council saying, that after he holds the event, he can submit his receipts, and at that time, we'll bring them to council for reimbursement?
At the beginning of 2025 in the next cycle. Yeah.
And I'm even willing to
Okay.
like combine them so that we can lower off some of that cost, and perhaps even work with another nonprofit that's having a some kind of event, so that we could possibly extend our advertising dollar together. You know, if there's a billboard, he's going to use it for his event in April. Let me see about putting my event in May, so that we can come to Aransas Pass in this out of town.
So, Mr.
City.
Rios, so after you hold your event, submit your receipts to the city secretary, and then we'll bring those forward to the council for consideration to reimburse. To
And that's
reimburse.
only a
That's probably
consideration,
the best way to do it.
correct?
That way we can see exactly where he spent the money, how much money he spent and whatnot.
No,
and that way
Hector,
you-
if you
They
bring them
have-
to us and we'll pay it.
Yeah.
That's
They have
what
to
we'll
fit,
do.
I mean, they have to be approved through the guidelines of the hot tax.
Yeah,
bill.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything
So,
does.
yeah.
I'm on for that.
If you apply again after you do your project with your concrete evidence, then yes, reapply, send them in, and the council will fund whatever expenses that you had, if it's qualifies under the hot tax funding requirements.
So be it.
How about if I piggy tail with a current event going on?
Which event?
We still don't know
I don't
what
know,
your
maybe I
event-
can talk to
event
Doug.
is gonna cost, Hector. You have.
Because I did
to
kind of
do
ride
that
with Doug.
first.
You remember
think
one
we
year,
ever
I did
given
ride
him
with
money
Doug.
up front
Yeah,
like
you
that.
did that one year. That would be kind of hard, because if Doug is asking for a set amount, and then it's allocated for the sports, advertisement and whatnot, I don't see how we're gonna combine that.
Yeah.
It'd be best to keep
Yeah,
it separate.
It would be separate. Yeah.
It had to be separate.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sure.
Hector.
Well, I'm all about that. I'm willing to do that. That's not such a big deal. I totally understood the process. I have, stand here being corrected. I misunderstood the process. But never would I pocket any money from the tax dollars. That's from my neighbors. That's my neighbor's money.
No,
I
can't do
wasn't
that.
saying that you would do that.
Okay,
The
I
public-
interpret that maybe wrong.
Yes, you interpreted that wrong.
But I just want to make sure I got it clear and that it's right coming
Yeah.
from me.
We-
Yeah,
we-
Hector, and then when next year you do it again, then we'll know what it is.
You got it.
Know how much
Yeah.
it costs.
Sure, okay,
Get that
absolutely.
first one under your
Yeah,
belt.
no problem. We can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and once you get it, keep everything and bring it, and I mean, sure you'd get reimbursed, no problem.
Okay,
Just
All
make it fall under the guidelines, and you know what they are.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll refresh
We've all
them.
been through
Yep.
some training.
Yep. Indeed, we have. I thank you for your time. Is there any other questions that I can answer at this time, or any other comments that anybody like to?
Because if you say no, it's gonna kill it completely.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you say this? So
Yeah, just have all the receipts and everything on hand, so.
So I make a motion to allow Hector Rios to reapply for his 2 events for hotel motel taxes after the events have been organized. Is that how you would say that?
Or to submit receipts for reimbursement related to these
Yeah.
2 events.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
to submit receipts for reimbursement for the 2 events.
Now, will you be blocking off hotel rooms?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. Have to.
We have a second.
I made the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
City Council, thank you so much for your service, for your time. God bless you and love each and every one. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Hector.
Thank you, Hector.
Consideration of approving a request from the Erasmus Path for Youth Organization for sponsoring of the Aquatic Center during their 7-week program for students. Summertime activities on Tuesdays from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. from June 10th, 2025 to July 22nd, 2025.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a program that's been ongoing and hosted by the city via the Aquatic Center every year. The organization, Aransas Pass for Youth, they do programs for children in the summer, and every year they request the city sponsor about 9 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks at the Aquatic Center, free of cost to them for a 4-hour amount of time on Tuesdays.
Okay. I make a motion to approve a request.
I love you. I love the program. Excuse me, just one other thing. I do love the program, but I sure would like for us to have a free swim day for any kid here in Aransas Pass that is not part of this program. There's lots of children that are not part of this program. They're not getting a free swim day once a week for however many weeks. So if y'all would consider, possibly giving a free swim day or something to those other children of citizens that are paying these taxes. Everybody's paying the taxes for that pool. Everybody is. So I think everybody should get something out of it, not
Caitlin,
just a
can you work
particular
that
group.
in?
So maybe if
work
y'all
that
could
in?
Thank you,
consider.
but that's not on the agenda, but we'll take that into.
That's not what we're talking about.
But that's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I make a motion to approve a request from the AP for Youth Organization for sponsorship at the Aquatic Center on Tuesdays, 12 to 4, June 10th through July 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we're gonna go to consideration of approving a location change for July 5th fireworks show to Compound Harbor and temporary road closure of Allen Boulevard from Aransas Marine Way to Turnbull Avenue for the execution of fireworks show on July 5th, 2025 from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Mayor and Council.
Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, what? That's not
I don't know,
Cinco
I
de
just read the
Mayo,
date right
that's
there.
May 5th.
Oh,
Today's
I
Cinco.
know, that's today.
Oh, I
That's
thought you were
today.
saying-
Mayo.
I thought you were saying this was Cinco de Mayo.
I know, I half expected there to be tacos here tonight.
We need fireworks today, is that what you're saying?
We have them here. So the request before you is to relocate the previously approved fireworks show that will take place on July 5th from the Community Park Softball Complex to the Con Brown Harbor. In front of you, you have the map. This would be the road that we are also temporarily requesting closure for. We have worked with our public safety teams, both police and fire, and along with also our chosen pyrotechnician to determine the best safety plan for this show, keeping in consideration traffic routes and needs to and from the harbor during that time. So should this item be approved, we would temporarily close Allen Boulevard from the entrance of Aransas Marineways to the Turnbow cut through. We would not be closing Turnbow, so that allows to stay open for both travel ways. This is coming before you tonight because we would like to have all of our 4th of July festivities in one area. Our Aransas Pass Visitor Center and Chamber of Commerce would like to also help promote this holiday by doing a fun festival down at the harbor, and we would like to show as the City of Aransas and the Chamber one solid area for this event.
Cool.
Make a motion to approve a location change for the July 5th fireworks show to Conroe Harbor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, now we're going to go to executive session. The Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, to meet with his attorney to seek legal advice on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city council members, the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meeting Act relating to Conroe Harbor lease, Aransas Marine Ways, Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations relating to JMMN LLP. And it is 7:20. council will reconvene in open session and may take action on any item listed on the executive session section of this agenda.
I make a motion to approve a lease term with Aransas Marine Ways for a 25-year term with an additional 25 years effective July 1st, 2025 pursuant to the terms and conditions agreed upon.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Well, guys, I have enjoyed the 8 years of service.